For more of this kind of content you can subscribe to the channel, like the video and leave a comment. Dirty puddles splashed under Troy's boots as he moved through Sector 12's back grid. Midnight patrol. Dead quiet. He cut left past a dead neon sign and into a narrow alleyway reeking of synth oil and piss. That's when he saw them. Two factory grunts, drunk and loud, cornering a woman. Not just any woman, green skin, tight black braid, dark eyes, alien, humanoid and stunning. One grabbed her arm. She spun, twisted his wrist until bone cracked. The second pulled a blade. She moved fast but not fast enough to dodge both. Troy stepped in. Move, he said, voice low. The factory grunt turned. Back off, this ain't your. Troy's fist crushed his words. The other one hesitated, then ran. The woman's eyes snapped to Troy. I didn't need help, she snapped. You'll thank me later, he replied, calm. She blinked, wiped blood from her lip. You military? He shrugged. Something like that. She narrowed her eyes. Figures, you people only show up when there's blood. Troy stepped closer. You bleeding? Not mine. Still want to fight? She staggered. He caught her arm without thinking. Don't touch me, she growled. You're hurt, I said. Don't. He let go. She stayed upright barely. Where's your unit? He asked. She looked away. No unit, she said. No ID chip, no escort, no protocol. Are you illegal? She turned back to him, slow and sharp. Are you going to report me? No, he said. I'm taking you somewhere safe. She flinched. You think I trust you? No, he said, already walking, but I think you're smart enough to come anyway. She hesitated just long enough for him to think she'd vanish into the dark. Then she followed, not because she trusted him but because she had nowhere else to go. She didn't speak the whole way there. Troy's apartment sat above a shuttered pharmacy, steel door sealed with 3 locks. She scanned everything when they walked in. No furniture, just concrete. 1 cot, 1 rust-stained sink, a wall of old surveillance monitors blinking on mute. Spare blanket on a crate, a soldier's. Then you live like this? She asked. Beats the barracks. She didn't sit, just crossed her arms and stared. He pulled open a drawer, tossed her a sealed ration bar and a water pack. She caught both without flinching. Got a name? He asked, pulling off his damp jacket. Why? I don't like talking to shadows. She took a bite of the bar like it offended her. Chewed, swallowed. Senna. Troy nodded once. Troy. She raised a brow. You're not curious about why I was alone in an alley? Why I don't have ID? Why your people would kill me on sight? I figured you'd tell me when you felt like it. You're weird, she said. He smirked. You're not exactly textbook yourself. That earned him a slow blink. Then she winced, pain catching up now that the adrenaline had burned off. Sit, Troy said, nodding to the cut. I'm fine. You're limping. I'm fine. He moved closer, gently reached for her arm. She flinched but didn't stop him. Her jacket peeled back to reveal a nasty bruise on her side, already darkening. He crouched, checked it without asking. Cracked rib, maybe. He muttered. You need medical? She stiffened. No hospitals. Too proud or too wanted? Both. He didn't push it. You can crash here for the night, he said, standing. No charge. Sina narrowed her eyes. Why help me? What do you want? He looked straight at her. Nothing unless you're offering your cocky. She said. You're armed, he replied. Then she crossed the room and dropped her jacket on the crate. I'll stay for 1 night. Fine by me. She sat on the cot like it insulted her. Troy handed her the blanket and stepped away, giving her space. Her eyes followed him. You kill people, Troy? Only when I'm paid. You ever kill one of mine? He paused. Not if I like them. Her lips twitched. She lay back, closed her eyes. They sat in silence for an hour. Troy didn't move. He'd been awake the whole time, back against the far wall, eyes half lit but alert. Selena stirred on the cot, bare blanket tangled around her waist, boots still on one arm flung over her stomach, the other twitching as she came awake like she expected to be shot. She sat up fast, then looked straight at him. You didn't try anything, she said. Should I have? I don't sleep easy, I noticed. Sina stood stretching with a wheeze. She didn't hide the pain this time. The bruise under her ribs had turned vicious, ugly purple over green skin. Troy didn't stare. He just stood and moved toward the supply shelf. I've got a stabilizer shot, he said. It won't heal it, but it'll keep you from collapsing next time you throw a punch. She watched him from across the room. I don't need your drugs. He held it out anyway. Suit yourself. She took it and didn't say thank you. Troy checked the time. Grid-wide blackout still hadn't been lifted. No comms, no patrol alerts, which meant one thing: containment sweep in progress. Something or someone had triggered a breach. He looked at Sina. She was walking the room now, running her fingers along the cracked monitors, the beat-up tools, the combat gear stored in the wall locker. You cataloging me or casing the joint? He asked. She turned slowly. Her dark eyes met his. You're a soldier. You kill my kind. I didn't kill you. Not yet. Troy crossed the space between them without hesitation. Close now, not touching you. Break into my place, sleep in my bed, eat my food, then tell me I'm a murderer. I didn't break in, she said calmly. You opened the door. He studied her green skin, black braid hanging over her shoulder, the way her eyes stayed hard even when her stance wavered. You're not just running, he said, you're hiding from something worse than me. Selena's jaw flexed. Then she reached for the locker, pulled it open. Inside, weapons. Scars of past missions etched into the metal. She touched the grip of one blaster, traced her thumb across the serial number. You miss it? She asked. Miss what? War. Troy didn't answer. Walked up to him. Do you feel useless now? She asked, voice low. Now that you don't get to shoot things for a paycheck. Troy's hand lifted. His fingers brushed her braid aside. His knuckles grazed her jaw. I don't need a paycheck to make a point. Is this your point? She asked, not backing off. He leaned in. No, this is. And then he kissed her. She didn't stop him and didn't pull back. Her hands were on his chest, then in his shirt, then gripping him like she wanted to tear him apart just to see what he was made of. She pushed him back into the wall. His tools rattled. His back hit steel. Her mouth claimed his like she'd waited too long and had no intention of taking it slow now. Troy gripped her waist, slid his hands lower. Heat burned between them, breath sharp, skin electric. She groaned against his lips. He whispered, still think I'm useless? Selena's response was a low, dangerous sound. Her hands pulled at his shirt, then clawed at his belt, then stopped, resting just above his waistband. Her forehead dropped to his, breathing heavy. I should hate you, she whispered. You don't. I want to. You won't. Then her lips found his again, this time slower, more dangerous, and when they finally broke apart, she pressed her forehead to his and whispered, flushed, trembling, what did you do to me? He just smiled. You'll find out when you try to walk. Morning came with heat and ache. The air in Troy's apartment was thick, sweat, steam from the busted heater kicking back in, and something heavier, the kind of tension that doesn't leave with sleep, the kind that lingers under the skin behind the eyes, and the way she tried to move, and Selena cursed. Troy was
already up, back turned, pulling on a thermal undershirt. His bare shoulders flexed. As he moved, she watched him for exactly 2 seconds. Too long, damn it, she muttered again, trying to sit up. It took more effort than she expected. Her legs buckled when she stood. She grabbed the edge of the cot, breath catching. He didn't look back. I warned you, he said, voice even. I didn't think you didn't listen, he corrected. Sina straightened slowly, wincing her hips. HD, so did her thighs. I can't walk straight, she muttered under her breath. I heard that, he said. She glared at him. This isn't funny, I'm not laughing, you're smirking. Troy turned around fully now, face unreadable, but yeah, there was a hint of smugness under the stubble in shadows. You didn't exactly tap out, he said. She crossed her arms, shifted her weight, regretted it instantly. You weren't gentle, you didn't ask. I don't ask, she snapped. Exactly, the tension wasn't just physical now, it was emotional. Senna looked away, jaw clenched. That wasn't supposed to happen. No, I don't do this, she said. I don't let people in. Troy moved closer. You didn't let me in, he said. You took me. You going to run now, he asked. She scoffed. Can't exactly run when I can't walk. Troy cracked the faintest smile. Fair. She sat back on the cot, slower this time, rubbing her temple like her pride was the only thing bruised. I hate you. No, you don't. I want to still know. So what now? She asked. I make breakfast. You cook? No, he admitted, moving toward the hot plate, but I've got synth eggs and caffeine tabs. Senna rubbed her knee. Romantic, isn't it? He cracked the seal on the synth carton. She watched him work his shoulders, his hands, the quiet, unbothered rhythm of a man who wasn't ashamed of what happened, who wasn't pretending. You're different than I expected, she said. Yeah, you don't act like a soldier. I stopped following orders a while ago. Silence stretched Then her voice softer. Last night felt real. Troy didn't turn. It was, and you're not freaking out. I don't freak out. She gave a dry laugh. Right, the eggs sizzled. The heater groaned. The city outside started to stir. I meant what I said, she said suddenly. I don't trust people, humans least of all. I'm not people, he said without missing a beat, and I'm sure as hell not most humans. That means something. You're trouble, she said. He handed her a plate. You started it. Senna took it. She bit into the synth egg, made a face. This tastes like chemicals. Because it is chemicals, she nodded. Still better than last night's choices. He raised a brow. You complaining? She looked at him deadpan. I can't walk straight. What do you think? Troy chuckled, this time real, and just like that something shifted between them again. By mid-afternoon the building's internal sensors flickered. Nothing big, just a blink. Most people would have ignored it. Troy didn't. He sat on the floor back to the wall calibrating his old portable scanner, while Sina paced slowly across the room, still limping. Your grid's twitching, she said, nodding toward the monitors. Yeah, he replied, so's the signal density in the area. Troy stood crossed to the console and tapped the surface. Means sniffing. Could be patrols, could be worse. Sina stiffened. You want to tell me what you're not saying? Troy asked. Sina met his stare, then slowly rolled her neck like she was bracing for impact. There's a reason I ran, she said. It wasn't just about humans or borders or laws. Troy folded his arms. Go on. I was part of a biological contract, she said flatly. One of the selected for what? Her eyes flashed. For breeding. Troy's jaw clenched. You serious? I was promised to a high command general from my sector, she said. For cross-strain genetic reinforcement. Troy didn't blink. They're trying to make hybrids. They are trying to own bodies, she said. Doesn't matter whose. Did you agree to it? I agreed to survive, she said. Until I didn't. She pulled her shirt up slightly and turned her back to him. That's where they tagged me. Spinal node right under the skin, almost microscopic. Troy moved in, focused. His fingers skimmed the base of her spine. Found it, he muttered. It looked like nothing, just a faint line under the skin, like a freckle that didn't belong. You're being tracked, he said. Senna tensed. I disabled my transponder weeks ago. This isn't your transponder. This is a passive tracer. Low power, doesn't transmit unless it's pinged from the outside. Troy stepped back, grabbed his toolkit. I'm taking it out. No sedative, no time, and I don't want you groggy if this goes wrong. Senna didn't flinch, just sat on the edge of the cot, pulled her braid aside, and braced her hands on her knees. Do it, Troy. Sterilize the blade. This is going to sting. I've had worse. The blade kissed skin. Senna hissed, but didn't move. Troy worked fast. It wasn't deep, but it was delicate. One wrong move, and he damaged a nerve cluster. He found the node. It was smaller than a button, black glass wrapped in a bow film. He plucked it out, sealed the wound, then held it up in front of her. Here's your leash. Senna stared at it, then crushed it between her fingers. Tiny sparks flared and died in her palm. She looked at him. You really are trouble, Troy said. Senna smirked. You've tasted it now. Whoever marked you is coming, he said. That thing sent a ping when it came out. How long do we have? Not long enough. She stood slowly. The limp was still there, but her stance had changed. I don't run easy, she said. Neither do I, Troy replied, but we are not winning a shootout in this dump. He tossed her a blaster from the locker. She caught it without hesitation. Then let's move, she said. They slipped into the rain-soaked alley behind the pharmacy. A few minutes later, where are we going? She asked. Sector 9 tunnels. Old power lines run through there. I've got an off-grid hide spot. Burned my last ID chip to build it. She looked at him sideways. You always prepare for war. He did not speak. They reached the end of the block. A drone passed overhead. They froze under a rusted archway. Selena's breath hitched. They are jamming, which means they are close. She drew her weapon. Her body moved like a soldier now. No more limp, no hesitation. Troy leaned in, voice low. You still with me? Her eyes burned. You don't get rid of me that easy. A corner turned, a door kicked in, and just like that they vanished into the dark. Sector 9 didn't show up on official maps anymore. Troy led them through a shattered maintenance corridor that hadn't seen a worker in years. The walls wept. Condensation pipes hissed overhead. Like they were breathing, lights flickered, failed and stayed dead. No cameras, but not safe. The underground felt like a throat waiting to swallow them. Sina walked beside him. She hadn't spoken since they dropped below surface level. Neither had he. It wasn't silence, it was focus. You ever come through here? She asked finally. Once, Troy said. 6 months ago. Smugglers used to run illegal transit paths along the trench rails long before your people ever set foot in our borders. They weren't my people, she muttered. He glanced at her. They marked you. Not all brands are voluntary. Still leaves a scar. She stopped walking. He turned. What? Her hand went to his chest. You say things like you know me, she said. Like you've been inside my head. Maybe I have. You don't. Troy didn't step back. I know what it's like to be used, owned, and to fake loyalty, just long enough to burn it all down. Her fingers curled slightly against his shirt. Then footsteps echoed behind them. Close. She stepped back. Tension snapped back into her body like a switchblade. Troy scanned the side corridor and pulled her behind a collapsed support beam. A patrol passed. Not human, 2 alien enforcers. Green-skinned, heavier builds, high-grade rifles slung low, visor scanning and slow sweeps. They weren't searching the upper sectors anymore. They'd moved below. Not good, Troy muttered. They have my scent, Sina whispered. The node you pulled. If they were pinging it, they might have locked my bio profile before it fried. So they are tracking you, he said, and they'll hit everything around you just to flush us out. Senna
swallowed hard. We need to cut right. There's an overflow tunnel through the old coolant line my people used to store recon gear. There might still be intact. Troy didn't argue. They moved fast now. He stayed ahead. She limped again. She leaned on the wall once, then again he stopped. You're not going to make it like this. I can still move. You're bleeding through your shirt. Troy dropped his shoulder under her arm without waiting for permission and pulled her flush against him. She resisted for half a second, then gave in. You're enjoying this, she said, just staying alive. They slipped through a busted steel grate and into the coolant tunnel. Low ceiling, ankle-deep water reeking of rust and something sweet and rotting. Selena's weight shifted heavier against him. You pass out on me. I'm leaving you here, he said. You wouldn't dare. You sure? She turned her head slightly. Her mouth brushed his jaw by accident. Her voice dropped too late to bluff. Human. Troy's grip tightened around her waist. A minute later the tunnel opened into a dome-shaped chamber. Once a relay station, now gutted, shelf-stripped, panels shattered, but one console still blinked in standby. They stepped inside. Sit, Troy ordered. She didn't argue this time. She dropped onto a crate, breathing shallow. Her side was soaked in blood, now thin dark lines where the stabilizer hadn't held. Troy tore open his med kit. Shirt off, you first, Sylvina. She pulled her shirt up and over. Her torso gleamed under the broken light. Smooth green skin covered in bruises, one of them black along her rib line. Troy dropped to one knee. Gloved hands worked fast. He cleaned the wound. Injected sealant ran a clot stem line just below her ribs. She didn't flinch once. You're going to pass out in 10 minutes, he said. You need to lie flat. Make me. Troy locked eyes with her, then pressed one hand to her shoulder, the other to her thigh, and gently pushed her back against the crate. I am. Her breath caught again. This time it had nothing to do with pain. Rest, he muttered. We move at second dusk. Selena closed her eyes for 5 full seconds, then opened them again. You're not who I thought, she said. I know you're worse. Troy cracked a dry smile. You'll thank me later. She laughed. The lights flickered again. She shifted on the crate, legs still aching from everything he'd done to her 2 nights ago and everything he'd kept her alive for since, and she whispered, still can't walk straight. Troy just sat across from her, watching, waiting. The silence in the relay dome was different now, just tense, like something waiting to happen. Troy hadn't moved in 10 minutes. Sat with his back against the wall, rifle across his lap, eyes on Selena as she lay stretched out on the makeshift cot made from 2 crates and a thermal wrap. Her shirt was off, bandages wound tight around her ribs. The light above her buzzed faintly, flickering with every power surge. She'd stopped pretending to sleep. Your eyes twitch when you fake it, Troy said. Selena's lips curled lazy. Maybe I just like watching you watch me. You're not subtle. I'm not trying to be. Troy walked to the far panel. Rebooted the sensor feed. It showed nothing but static, no movement in the tunnels, no biometric flags, but that didn't mean they were alone. You think they'll track us here? She asked, eventually. How long do we have? He looked over his shoulder. Until you can walk. Senna laughed. It was her Sero, low cut with exhaustion, that long. Troy crossed to her, sat on the crate beside her legs. You should rest, he said. I did. Until you started pacing like a caged predator. That what I look like to you? Senna rolled to her side. The movement pulled the wrap tight over her chest. You look like someone pretending not to want what's right in front of him. Troy's jaw flexed. This isn't the time. Time's the only thing we've got down here. Her voice dropped softer. Now you saved me again. Even after I told you not to. Why? Troy didn't answer right away. His fingers drummed once on the edge of the crate. Then because I want to, even if it gets you killed. You think this is some war zone romance? She asked. That we bond over bruises and blood, and now I let you keep me like a stray cat? No, Troy said. I think you've been hunted so long you don't know what it feels like to not be the target. He leaned in. And I think that scares the hell out of you. She kissed him. He caught her waist, pulled her up, her legs wrapping around his hips. Automatically she hissed when her ribs pinched but didn't stop. Troy backed her against the wall gently but not slow. Hands everywhere. Her back arched. Her fingers gripped his shirt. You said not now. She breathed between kisses. I lied. She smirked, eyes half-lit. About time they didn't make it to the floor. They didn't need to. The console sparked once. Troy kicked it off without breaking contact. Somewhere outside metal dripped from the condensation pipe. Somewhere deeper the tunnels creaked like old bones shifting, but inside the room it was just them, bodies, tangled heat rising. Every breath was a defiance, every grip, every pull, every moan under breath. It wasn't about lust anymore, claiming something real when the world was set on burning everything down. Time folded around them. Maybe an hour passed, maybe two. They stayed wrapped in each other, backs against the wall, limbs tangled in the wreckage of what passed for shelter. Finally, when the fire broke into stillness, Selena slumped against him, forehead pressed to his. I don't get attached, she murmured. Too late, Troy said. I'm not saying I trust you. I don't want your trust. Then what do you want? You, he said simply. She whispered, you're mine now, human. And Troy without hesitation pulled her closer and said, I was yours the second you turned around in that alley. They didn't move again for a while. When they finally did, it was only because the emergency beacon flared red on the edge of the console. Troy swore crossed the room. Check the feed. A burst signal had been caught. Senna wrapped the blanket tighter around her chest and stood beside him. What is it? She asked. Company, he said, 3 heat signatures closing fast. She grabbed her shirt, pulled it over her head and locked eyes with him. Then we do what we do best, she said. Troy chambered around. Fight? No, she said, smirking. Survive. The silence shattered the moment they hit the hallway. Troy led rifle up, sweeping the shadows with controlled, silent precision. Selena followed at his 6, her blaster steady despite the pain in her side. She barely had time to redress the wound. The bandage under her shirt was still warm with blood, but her hand didn't shake. The safe house was compromised. 3 heat signatures could be scouts, could be killers. Either way they couldn't stay. They moved through the cracked auxiliary tunnel that ran beneath the old sector grid, water pooling at their boots. The lights buzzed overhead, then flickered out completely. EMP, Cena whispered. He knew this trick. Kill the lights, push them into motion. Make them expose themselves. Backtrack, he said, voice low. Cut through the maintenance hatch. We loop around. Make them chase shadows. Senna's breath was shallow. And if they don't, then we become ghosts. They dropped into a side conduit. Narrower, colder, lined with broken conduit lines and abandoned data fibers. Troy sealed the hatch behind them and keyed a temporary signal scramble from his wrist pad. It wouldn't hold long, but it would be enough. They moved fast. Silent, every breath felt like it might echo. By the time they reached the end of the corridor, Silva's skin had gone pale green under the grime. She gripped the wall, stumbled once, then caught herself with a hiss. Troy grabbed her arm. You're bleeding again. I said, I'm fine. You're not. I don't need your protection. He pulled her into the shadows behind a fuse box and stepped close. You don't, but you've got it anyway. Senna didn't reply. Couldn't. Not when he was looking at her like that. Not when her pulse was hammering harder from the nearness than the fear. She swallowed hard. Why are you doing this? Because I choose to. She shook her head. You don't
Know what you're choosing then tell me I was supposed to be one of them she whispered command class genetic. Compatibility grade A groomed for alliance for breeding for show you know how rare it is to match interspecies. Viability my pairing was supposed to secure a new generation of tacticals Troy didn't flinch like a pawn like. Property her voice cracked slightly they told me it was an honor that I'd serve the legacy advance my people's power. That my body wasn't mine it was duty so I smiled trained played the role until. The night before the bonding ceremony I broke protocol hijacked a command cruiser, and disappeared she looked at him again no weapons no backup, just a stolen ship, and a bloodstream full of enhancements meant for someone else's future Troy's jaw clenched and the General Senna laughed without humor still. Looking for me probably I was his key to the next stage of genetic unification, I didn't just run I humiliated him you're not marked for death Troy said you're marked for revenge she nodded you should have told me, he said would you have still taken me in? Yeah, he said no hesitation, but I would have locked the door faster then laughed real this time. Just once then it vanished you're the only one who didn't ask me to prove anything, she said not once you already proved everything when you walked through that alley and didn't beg. Senna studied him carefully quietly. Then she said something she hadn't said before, I didn't find you. What I chose you. Troy went still those words. Held weight not sweet not sentimental they were dangerous like picking a side. In a war that hadn't even started yet, you didn't just risk your life hiding me, she said, you've been risking your heart every second since and now we're both in too deep you regretting it. She looked down at the blood on her shirt the heat in her limbs the bruise on her ribs the memory of his mouth on hers. No, she said, I'm scared of it. Good Troy said that means it's real then the ground vibrated beneath their feet Troy's head snapped up that wasn't background noise movement breach they both drew weapons Troy keyed the hatch panel and slipped it open just enough to peek two armored figures moved down the main corridor full armor military grade they weren't patrol grunts, they were death squads precision teams the kind that didn't bring prisoners back Troy sealed the hatch again, looked at her they found us Senna stood tall despite her pain then we take the fight to them, she said you sure you're up for that? Her fingers locked around the grip of her blaster I can't walk straight, she said, but I can shoot. The corridor stretched before them one last tunnel between survival and slaughter behind them the enemy ahead of them a chance Troy reached for her hand. Cena took it one nod one breath, and they ran the corridor stank of rust and old war boots splashed through ankle-deep water as Troy and Cena ran breath-tight. Pulse-pounding weapons drawn their footsteps echoed off the curved walls blending with the low mechanical hum of the grid's ancient power veins, they are inside the main frame Troy muttered grids reacting to internal command codes. They are not coming for surveillance Cena, said her voice rough, they are coming to erase us then they'd better bring backup. They reached a junction Troy held up a fist both froze he crouched pulled a shard of reflective plating from the wall and angled it around the corner 3 full armor 1 with a shoulder comm. Link they are directing traffic command unit Cena, said which means a whole stack behind them, we split them drop the lead. Scatter the rest you take left she said I'll distract you're still injured. Doesn't matter Troy looked at her blood at her side sweat straw across green skin. Eyes dark and sharp like fire pressed behind glass don't die he said don't. Plan to then she moved Cena rounded the corner fast blaster raised she fired. 3 shots before they could turn one hit center mass armor sparked, but held the enemy dove for cover shouting into comms that was when Troy struck he flanked left silent through the dark and drove a blade straight under the first soldier's chin before they could react armor plates flexed blood sprayed the second turned too late Troy fired once. Then twice close range the sound cracked through the tunnel like a gut punch the body fell hard the last soldier the Commel Link raised his rifle Selena hit him center chest once twice he staggered. She moved forward fast despite her limp slammed the butt of her blaster into his visor and ripped the common from his belt Troy caught her before she dropped she was breathing hard her knees buckled for half a second then straightened. Still standing, she gasped. He steadied her. Not for long if we stay here behind. Them the comlink flared once, still active. Static hissed through, then a distorted voice. Unit 2 status, report confirmed. Neutralization. Troy looked at Sina. Can you mimic their dialect? She nodded, took the device, tuned her voice.